Alright, so here's the contacts. Here's the trolley. Looks in great condition. Contacts look in fabulous condition, especially because of the MOSFET. Now, when you put this in here, it goes forward and it taps the contacts a little bit straight, but the contacts are a little tall, so when they come in and hit, they hit like this. So we're going to chop it down just a little bit. It's not going to affect your trigger response because you're using a MOSFET. Also, the burnout on this will be impossible. I don't see any burning, any marking. The bending is going to be a little different, but some people will do the hair trigger mod of just bending this material away. I'm just going to chop it off because there's no point in bending it. Some of the parts won't be completely as straight, so I'm just going to chop it off slightly. Okay, so you can see I have chopped it off slightly. And I did that to both. So now I'm going to assemble it. Okay, so now you're going to see how much smoother it can go through here as it hits the two contacts. And I'm going to sand it down so it's really smooth, but you can see that's already a lot better than it was, especially if you get some height here. You can't go really that high, but you can see it also relieves some pressure to it, so it can easily come out. So next you're going to do is bend these just slightly. That's all you need, is a slight bend to make sure that they touch properly. Oh yeah, great. Okay, another thing I do here is I check between the trolley and make sure that it's completely centered. You can see right here it is completely centered. There's no way it can go anywhere else. So while it's in the gearbox in there, it should center it into it perfectly. Alright, so that part's done. The reason being is because I want to do a couple tests. So pull this over here. It's hard to do on camera. I gotta do it for me really quick. Alright. Now what you want to do is take this trigger and put it in here. And go ahead and pull the trigger and see the difference. I can already tell you why it's really stiff, and part of it is because of the trolley spring right here. Trolley spring is really stiff, so when you go to pull the trigger, it's very stiff. Now, as far as how far you have to pull, it's pretty short, but you got to remember with this type of MOSFET, I'm not sure if that MOSFET's designed to, no, I'm pretty sure it's not designed to wait for a cutoff point, because there's no mechanical cutoff being told to it. It's just going to cut off unless it's down to a timing. So right here, if I was to do this, just like that, you could have a half cycle if you just do that real quick. But if I did, you know, push like that, I'd be perfectly fine. So if you did really quick like that, you're going to need a trigger board, something that tells mechanically when to actually cut off and not just based on you tapping with some kind of connection. Because the other way it tells to cut off is just through the cutoff itself when you disconnect. Okay, so in here you can see that the trolley spring is freaking stiff. So we're going to go ahead and take that out real quick. Okay, so you want to put this up and over. And there you go. Now when you go to pull it, that is looser. Okay, not nearly as stiff as it was. You can just tell from me touching it. Alright, now what you're going to do is put the spring in here to your trigger. If I can get it in there. What I'm probably going to do is super glue or red Loctite your screw back here, because I don't want that moving. And for some reason I can't get this through. There's like something not pushing it correctly or something. I don't want to poke myself. It won't go all the way through. There's something blocking in there, isn't there? See, look, I can't even do it on this side. I don't think this spring was made too well for this, so let's grab another spring like that. And same thing kind of applies here. This is kind of stiff. However, that's going to be applied mostly when you let go of the trigger. So let's go ahead and pull another spring out of here. Should have another one somewhere in here. And it looks like that's all I have right now. Okay, so you want to compare how strong some of these are. And I still can't seem to get through that. There we go. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So this would be pretty nice. So slide this in here. If I can get it in. That's the problem with having these screws on the back here. Okay, another issue you have, I can tell you right now, you gotta be careful of, is back here the screw hits into your trigger. It looks like. We'll know when I get cut off and try to grab it. That spring is really, really, really stiff. So what you want to do is slightly bend it away from. Pull this out here. Get my pliers. And I've bent it a little bit more straight. You can see that right there. So put this in here. That screw is kind of being a pain in the ass. And when I pull this, it's a little bit better. Sometimes there's not enough spacing within here to make it easy to do your cutting off. So I'm going to take this out and slightly, I mean we're talking slightly, modify this down, the tip of this. Just slightly, and leave it curved. So I'm going to do that. Double check, be positive that you have an issue. You also know you have an issue when you put it in and you get it in there and you hear it click. You know, not to mention this screw right here is keeping that height from being so high. So I'm going to go ahead and put down a little slightly. Alright, so I took off a very tiny bit, and when you look at it from the back here, you want to see that just enough of it is holding the trolley forward so that the trigger does not bypass. You also want to close and slowly do this. I don't recommend this unless you're extremely done this for a while, done a lot of these modifications, because if you cut off way too much, you're going to be screwed. And I love that trigger pull much better now. Okay, we're going to shorten the pull, at the same time prevent the trigger from snapping under. What you want to do is cut some plastic. Here's some polycarb, and you fit it right inside here. And you can sand it down to whatever size you want. I probably started out too big, but this is just demonstrating first, and then I'll sand, appropriately. But if you can fit this in here, it fits in there like that, and then you can glue it in. But what you want to do is go ahead and put it down in here with the trolley, of course, and the trolley can't go forward at all. You can see right there. So you need to take it out, and of course sand it down. I'm going to use some 400 grit, really smooth it out. Okay, the tops of these, up and down slightly. They are scratching the trolley a little bit. There we go. No more scratching. And we can move them forward just a little bit. Another thing you can do is you can put a little piece of plastic in between here, and that might be a little bit easier depending on how you set it up. So that's going to be all the way forward. We kind of just want to go to about right there, halfway. Let's see if that works to what I have here. Not enough, so I'll take it back out and still cut it down. Okay, so the trigger trolley is being modified so that it cuts off properly with semi every time. It's having metal put on, like one of my other videos that I've shown before, but here's the trigger without the trolley. See how smooth that is right now. And now if I push this into safety, can't pull the trigger at all. That is stiff. Let go. That is way nicer. Now to show what I've done, I've also done this in one of my videos. Pretty much every single thing that I'm doing has been explained on one of my videos somewhere. But you can see right here, here's the post, and here's this. It's been cut at a straight angle right here so that it cannot curve off of it. And it comes up to the post and locks it straight in place, and then it goes down. So you can see right here that there is a lot of little modifications being done to make this very, very, very fine-tuned on the trigger. The only thing better is going to be some kind of electronic board. So I think I've done everything there. You can see that it's, I think this is the polyacental thing. I can't pronounce these damn words anymore. But you can see it's super glued on there, sanded down, and this was cut down properly, so adds the proper spacing in between. And then pretty soon I've got this super glued down in there, just to kind of show you. So pretty soon everything's coming together. And you can see I'm just applying all these mods without too much testing. I'm just doing this gearbox. shell. So overall, if you do everything fine-tuned very well and you put it in the body and you go to shoot it, it's going to be exactly the same, especially with hand testing. So that's why I'm very confident that once I finish up everything here, this is going to be a pretty nice trigger system part here. The other thing about the cutoff, the reason it doesn't pull it up as easily as this is a straight and not too much of an angle that helps it lift up sooner. I don't know if you guys can see that on camera too well, but this is too freaking straight. I've had some that are angled so that when you go to pop it, it pops it much easier. Shouldn't be an issue though, considering that more of the work's going to be back here on this cutoff, and the cutoff arm on the trolley is going to be metal now, so we're not going to have an issue with that. And we'll have to check it and make sure that, you know, before I go and shoot this, that it works within the tap-up plate too, because if it can't lift it properly, you can break the tap-up legs. You can, all these little modifications, you got to make sure that they're, you know, good to go before you pull the trigger on the when it's all loaded. Okay, so here's the final piece. I dropped some glue down inside the trolley. Right in there, that little hole, to help keep the screw in place. The screw is in there very tightly. Then, just like my other modification on another video, I cut this down to be a trolley arm. And I probably will have to modify it a little bit more, but you can see how it's metal now, and there's no way that that is going to become broken, and it will keep functioning. So I'll let that glue dry, and then I'll go ahead and do the final testings through the trigger. Okay, here's it all assembled so you can see how different it is and how slight of a trigger pull it is. Alright, now assemble it completely. Okay, Brian, here's your final result. Trigger stiff on safety, just to prove that you won't have an issue with that. The trigger pull, as far as it will go, is like this. After a semi cutoff, it can go a little bit farther to bypass, which is normal. When you let go, rotate the gear a little bit here, you can go back to semi. Full auto, no problem. Semi does grab the new trolley arm that is made of metal from a screw that I modified to put in there. Okay, so you grab here, and just to show you can grab very lightly. You can still get a cutoff. See that? So you should not have any single problem having semi malfunction on you. Now, remember, this is not a trigger board. This is based off timing cutoff when you get cut off here. So if you do this, then your rifle is going to jam. You cannot do that without having some type of trigger board or some kind of electronic timing that knows when to cut off after a full rotational cycle of the sector gear. But however, this is the best you're going to get without a trigger board. You can just do a full trigger pull like that. Okay? And you can see that is very nicely done. There was a little bit of cutting in here to allow the trolley to move forward very smoothly. Overall, I gotta say, this is a really nice trigger now. So you can see the pull is not much of any that you can do here. Having the new trolley arm made of metal, I think you'll really like this. Your semi will be semi from now on.